Hey everybody. So I have to start this off and make fun of myself a little bit because I completely posted my video yesterday and thought it went really well, thought I'd get everything on there. And then I was reading through my comments because I always get really great comments from people and I love it. And I had a wonderful subscriber tell me about an error I had made. And I genuinely appreciate that. Like, I want people to tell me if I got something wrong. I don't want to put misinformation out there. So, that's why I always try to use people's own words as receipts. So I appreciate when people tell me that I get things wrong. So I had somebody tell me about an error I made. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just go over to YouTube Studio, use the blurring tool that I've heard so much about, blur this part out real quick, and then be done with it. So I go to YouTube Studio, I figure out where the blur tool is, and I think that I've done it perfectly. Like, I thought I had the exact time in there. I was so proud of myself. I checked, there's a little box that says, you understand that this is permanent and cannot be undone once you do it. And I'm like, yeah, I did it right. So check the box, save it, and it says, okay, editing is taking place, may take blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. So I go on and I am reading more of my comments and log off. And about an hour later, I go back on to check my comments again. And I look at my video and I'm like, wait a minute, this looks shorter. And I realized that I deleted the first 13 minutes of my video. So it starts like halfway through or third of the way through. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm like, I'm such an idiot. So I panicked for a minute and I was like, wait a minute. I still have in my editing software, my video's still there. I just need to go in there and blur it out there and then upload the video again and problem solved. But I didn't want to lose my comments because I have so many amazing people that come and comment and people put time into their comments and I didn't want to lose those. So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I was like, well, I'll upload it again. And then on the first video I did, I'll just remove everything but the end credit and make a community post and tell people what I did, right? So I do that and I'm waiting for it to edit or upload the second video that I post. And I go back to the comments under my first video and I'm reading, and someone else very helpful had posted, just pin a comment under your video and put the timestamp and tell them what the error is. And I was like, oh my God, why did I not think of that? Where was this comment? So I was like, oh God, I like so many like idiot moments yesterday. I was like, I cannot believe that I've done all this. This looks really stupid. It's all part of a learning process. And I know that people that come over here often will understand. So it's just things I got to learn being a creator and actually making content and videos. I have to iron out all of this stuff because I don't quite know exactly how to use it, apparently. So, but I'll learn. But I was just thoroughly entertained by myself yesterday and had quite a few laughs over that. I am somebody that can laugh at myself and laugh with others at myself. So I try not to take myself too seriously. So yeah, that's what happened. I apologize for anyone that got confused by that or irritated that it popped up again in your feed. I do apologize for my idiocy. So it's been an interesting week with the whole Lauren Matthias situation popping up and being the topic of discussion everywhere. And before you turn this video off and run away, I'm not going to talk specifically about that situation. I want to mention a few things right here at the beginning, and then I'm going to be done with it. This is not going to be about that the whole time, I promise. And what I'm talking about really isn't that situation, but more about some of the psychology surrounding it and how people are picking up on this and that to follow and why we do that, right? So there's this thing that BJ tries to use all the time, but doesn't use it correctly, and that's confirmation bias. And in the situation with Lauren, confirmation bias plays a big part in how different people and different communities in different areas see that situation. BJ's kind of bounced back and forth because she started out, of course, saying, oh, yeah, Lauren, this is my situation, but I have had it even worse than her. But then she kind of went, well, wait a minute, maybe she's not a victim. Maybe it's the other way around. But then she went right back into, Lauren is the victim of the Mean Girls, right? And then people that have been dealing with BJ and seeing that whole situation with her and how it's played out are more likely to go to the side of understanding what's happening and understanding a little bit of Christina's side to it. And that's all because of the things that we've experienced with BJ, the things that we have seen and heard, and we use all of that confirmation bias to frame how we see the situation. And so I just wanted to explain a little bit about confirmation bias because I think there are a lot of people that don't really understand what it's about, understandably. You know, a lot of us don't sit around and just research shit for no reason. So I, of course, do because I'm just curious about things like that and psychology and how it goes, you know? And so confirmation bias is this is an innate bias that we can be unaware of. And even if we are aware of it, we need to keep reminding ourselves of it so that we can keep ourselves in check for not just going with that bias. You know, we really want to look at things and try to be objective, right? So, this is largely how fake news is spread as misinformation. We are not deliberately trying to share false information with friends and family, but we may genuinely believe it's the truth because we want it to be the truth. So, examples of that are like not seeking out the objective facts or interpreting info specifically to support your own existing beliefs, only remembering details that uphold your beliefs, and ignoring the information that may challenge what you believe. Because it's like this situation, if we look at it and say, oh, yeah, we see Lauren as BJ, that same situation, that same victim mentality, trying to turn things around on people when actually they're the ones doing it. And so it's easy for us to see it that way, to hear details that support what we think, to remember things we've heard that support things we think. It's something that our brain does that we may not be aware of or we may be aware of. So confirmation bias affects all of us, whether we realize it or not. And when it comes to believing fake news, we are all at a disadvantage. As people, we suffer from many different cognitive biases defined as predictable patterns of error in how the human brain functions, which are widespread and may affect how people understand and even practice reality. They are difficult for individuals to avoid and, in fact, can lead different people to subjectively different interpretations of objective facts. So it's the tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that are consistent with one's existing beliefs. And all of this is tied closely to a phenomenon called filter bubbles. And filter bubbles are intellectual isolation that can occur when websites make use of algorithms to selectively assume the information a user would want to see. And then they give that info to the user according to that assumption. Websites make these assumptions based on the information related to the user, such as former click behavior, our browsing history, our search history, our current location. And as you can tell from the definition, we ourselves are the creators of our own filter bubbles. Social media algorithms keep track of the content we choose to interact with. And then they begin to show us only what the algorithm has determined we want to see. When we put this with our innate confirmation bias, we begin creating a bubble of information that only confirms the beliefs we already have. So this can aid in the spread of fake news. It is likely to appeal to us also because we're more likely to interact with people who hold similar beliefs as us. And when those people share fake news, it is likely going to appeal to us also. And so we take up the story that they told us and share it. And the real issue is that these algorithms are so common, we may not even notice that info from other viewpoints is missing. So, you know how the algorithm works. Whatever we're watching, whatever we're clicking on, we're interested in, it starts pulling content that is related to that. And so when you already have this belief, this existing belief, your confirmation bias, and then you have an algorithm that is feeding you only news articles and videos that are also portraying this same information that you already believe, you're not even going to realize that you're not getting the other side of it because your algorithm isn't pushing that out to you. You're only seeing the things that go along with what you already believe, which reinforces your bias. I hope that makes sense somehow. So it's a real issue when these algorithms are so common that we may not even notice that information from other viewpoints are missing, that we're only getting one side of the story fed to us, and we're not seeing objectively. And it not only has an effect on how we gather info, but how we interpret it and even how we recall it. So people who support or oppose a particular issue will not only seek info to support it, but they will also interpret news stories in a way that upholds their existing ideas. They will also remember details in a way that reinforces the beliefs they already hold. And there are some signs of confirmation bias. These may be inadvertently done or consciously, and it can be very subtle where you don't realize that you're doing it. Looking for evidence that confirms what you already think is true rather than considering all the available evidence. And that's like when you look at the Lauren situation or you look at true crime cases such as Sebastian, where you already in your mind have decided what you think is true and you're going into it and you don't look at all the available evidence because you're convinced it happened this way and you do not seek out anything that might show opposing views because you don't want to. You don't want anything to disturb your belief. And this actually can be done more consciously than subconsciously, just avoiding hearing the side that doesn't support what you want to believe, right? We often find ourselves staying away from it. And we may say that it's because we don't like the creators that are talking about that view, or we think that they are biased and we don't want to listen to it. We can make all kinds of excuses for ourselves as to why we don't want to hear the opposing view, when in reality, it may just be our own confirmation bias is playing a part, and we don't want to give up on our belief. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to think that we have believed this way for so long and it's inaccurate. And then selectively remembering information that supports your views and forgetting or discounting the information that doesn't. And I think this more has to do with when you're listening to information about something, you are paying more attention to the information that supports what you believe. When you're hearing the things that are opposition to what you believe, you aren't really paying as much attention and locking that into your memory because you just don't want to hear it, right? Having a strong emotional reaction to information, whether positive or negative, that confirms your beliefs while remaining emotionally unaffected by information that doesn't. So, for example, in a true crime case, if you are convinced that one parent is guilty of something and you hear, this is just an example, okay? Let's say you hear that the parent that you think is guilty put this child to bed at midnight one night and then 11 p.m. one night and 1 a.m. the next night, and you get outraged by this. And you talk about how bad it was for the child that this was their sleep schedule, and how dare those parents not have them on a regular schedule, and this probably harmed the child. You get very emotionally outraged about that situation. However, whenever you hear the same information about the parent that you think is innocent, you have no reaction to it. You aren't affected. You don't get angry. You don't bring it up. You hear it and that's it. You don't bring it up again. So the things that reinforce your beliefs in things are going to emotionally affect you more greatly than the things that you don't believe in. I hope that makes sense. In my mind, I'm understanding what I'm saying. I hope it's coming out clearly that way. I don't think it is, and I'm trying to. I know that there's cases recently that I could use specific examples of, but I don't want to drag all that crap back out. I just don't, because those cases have been through enough turmoil, and I just don't even want to bring it back up. So I would use examples from that, but I just don't want to. So I'm trying to keep it like vague examples, and I hope that they're coming across as understandable. So there's a few different types of confirmation bias. There's biased attention. And this is when we selectively focus on the information that confirms our views while ignoring data that doesn't. So this is like watching the streams that are supporting what we believe. So with this whole Lauren debacle, that would be us only watching the streams that are, if you think that Lauren has done something wrong, it's only watching the streams that back that up. It's only watching the streams that also say that Lauren has done something wrong, and pretending like the streams that are defending her don't even exist. And then there's biased interpretation. And this is when we consciously interpret information in a way to confirm our beliefs. So that is taking any statement and twisting it to where it will fit what we believe. And this may take some incredible reaching and twisting to get it to where it falls into what we believe, but there are people that will do it. And I can name one at least. Okay, and then there's biased memory, and this is when we selectively remember information that supports our views while forgetting info that doesn't. So details of the case that support what we believe, because that's the points that we use to argue our beliefs. That's what we use as our talking points when we're trying to defend our beliefs. So we obviously remember those more vividly than we do the ones that go against what we believe. Confirmation bias is extremely interesting to me. You could take two people that are on opposite sides of a topic, hand them the same news story, have them both read it, and how they interpret it will be completely different because their bias shapes how they perceive the details and how they remember the details because it is going to be whatever further confirms their beliefs on the topic. And this bias happens due to the natural way the brain works. We can't get around it. It's something the brain does. And while confirmation bias is often discussed as a negative tendency that impairs our logic and decision making, it isn't always bad. Confirmation bias can significantly impact our lives, both positively and negatively. On the positive side, it can help us stay confident in our beliefs and values and gives us a sense of security and certainty. Negatively, it can keep us from looking at situations objectively, and it can also influence our decisions and lead us to poor choices whenever we follow what we perceive to be the truth. So there are ways that you can overcome confirmation bias, but it requires you to be very self-aware. You have to be aware of the signs that you might be falling victim to it. And this includes being aware of your own personal biases and how they might influence your decision making. So stereotypes play big into confirmation bias. Things that we have in our belief system that we have learned as stereotypes growing up and are ingrained into our minds. So, for example, BJ using the whole Southern stereotype all the time, how everything she justifies because it's a Southern thing when actually it's not. But she can justify anything, such as having weapons laying around her house in every room because that's what you do in the South. Things like that. And you have to kind of remember that you have those biases whenever you're looking at things. You have to be aware of your own personal biases that you hold on to and that have been a part of your life, and you know that you are going to look at differently. Another way is to consider all the evidence available rather than just evidence that confirms what you already think. Seek out different perspectives, especially from those who hold opposing views. Be willing to change your mind in light of new evidence, even if it means updating or changing your current beliefs. You know, this is hard. This is especially hard when you get into spaces like social media where ideas are pushed and there is a lot of polarization to sides of a case. And confirmation bias definitely leads to increased societal polarization. You know, we create these insular echo chambers, and social media can push people towards increasingly extreme viewpoints. People with differing opinions see each other as fundamentally wrong or even malevolent. Does that sound familiar? Intensifying division in society and eroding trust. It also can limit our personal growth. So we need to escape the cycle of confirmation bias for our own personal growth. When people avoid challenges to their beliefs, they limit the capacity for understanding and empathy towards those with a different perspective. And we see that in so many people online, especially, that they have absolutely no empathy or attempt at understanding people that see things differently from them. And we've got to change that because it is changing society. We also need to be aware that social media platforms are filtering our info. Be conscious of your personal biases and how they affect the content you consume. Remember that your algorithm is feeding you the information that backs up and what you believe. Because the more that you view streams, articles, news stories that go along with what you believe, the more the algorithm is feeding you that same type of content. You're not getting the opposing views fed to you. So it's easy to believe that the majority of people believe like you do because that's all that's coming into your feed. I don't know if anyone recently heard BJ talk about there's a spiritual awakening going on, and everywhere she goes, she's seeing that more and more people are coming to God. And, you know, of course, she's pushing towards the end of the world coming, but and, you know, I hope that's happening, but I'm not seeing it. But what I think is happening for her is she is watching things that support that. She is seeking out streams and videos that talk about that type of thing. So her algorithm is filled with all of these people turning to God, the spiritual awakening. And so that's all she's seeing in her feed. And it leads her to believe that that's all that's happening out there, that this is a major trending story, when in reality, it is just an algorithm feeding her what she's interested in. but she is unable to identify that and separate it into something else, right? Okay, what am I going to go into now? So I want to talk about a few things that I have a person who comments pretty regularly in my comment section who is a supporter of BJ. And now this person is always very respectful when he comes into my comments and will leave me, some input on his side of things. And I do think it's important to hear what people that support her believe and what is driving them to continue supporting her and what exactly they're angry about. I do think it is helpful to have an open dialogue with people that are willing to be respectful and not ugly. So I do interact with him in my comment section, but he left a comment a few days ago that had some things that I wanted to talk about because I thought it might be interesting for us all to hear kind of what their concerns are and what a person that defends VJ is looking at and thinking, right? And this doesn't mean that this is everybody that follows her. This doesn't mean that we are necessarily wrong or that he's necessarily wrong. I just thought it might be interesting to take a look at some of the things that he said. I did respond to him. Of course, I try not to keep my comments from being as long as my community posts. Sometimes I fail. But so he came in and started off with a comment that he's one of the many subs who are still with BJ and have never left over there. And great, I think that's great. Everybody has creators that they have been with for a while and that they believe in and support. And that's great. But I also have to say, when you have someone like BJ who has had such a mass turnover of people, both mods and just regular subscribers, at what point do you sit and say, I might be the problem here? Why are so many people leaving, walking away, waking up? What is it? Just at what point do you take a look around and go, wow, there's been a lot of people that I used to talk to in these chats that used to be here that are now over there. And, you can't say, like, I guess if a creator switches sides, I've heard BJ say they've switched to the BJ hate train because there's more money over there. Well, you can't say that about just subscribers because they're not making money off of switching to not supporting BJ anymore. So what is the advantage to them? Why would they switch if it wasn't because of BJ? Like, at what point do you sit back and take self-inventory and say, hey, I could be the problem here. Like, I've had a whole lot of mods leave. I've had a whole lot of subscribers leave recently. What could be the problem that is spanning all of these different types of people? There has to be a point where you look at that. So then he went on to say, right or wrong, she signed on to this litigation due to being harassed for months and not knowing how to get it to stop. And that the subscribers didn't know about this litigation until after she'd signed it. Okay, well, first of all, it doesn't matter if subs knew or not. She was going to do what she was going to do, right? And this is another part of confirmation bias, I believe, because the people that sit over there with her, the people that dislike Granny's watching, are going to justify this. That you're going to, in their heads, listen to what BJ is putting out for her rhetoric, believe it, take it, and run with it. When in reality, there was nothing in those months leading up to her signing on to the litigation that was any different from any other time in the past 3 or 4 years between her and Granny's watching. Actually, a few months before this, there had been an attempt at a ceasefire where BJ had gone up on Granny's watching panel and they had talked and said that they were going to stop talking about each other, made a truce. BJ hopped off the panel, went straight back to her channel, started talking shit on Granny. So, there was nothing in those months before she signed on that was any different. She had been doxxed years earlier. It just hadn't been spread around continuously, like some other people have unfortunately had done to them. So the fact that her glitch got shown, no, to me, that does not justify what she did. That's my feeling on that. It's not going to change. I am not doing anything for Granny's watching. Do I disagree with the whole injunction? Yes. I don't understand this whole BJ going around saying all the time, I've got a screenshot of so-and-so saying, you should have never signed on to this RICO. I've got a message saying that she's doing this because of the RICO. I heard her say, I've got a screen record of her saying, this is revenge for the RICO. And what? So what? What if people are? Do you think Granny is puppeteering these people. I mean, what is your point? People are allowed to have their own individual feelings about things. People are allowed to view a situation and say, I don't like that. That makes me angry. I think it's wrong. I'm going to speak my part on it. Or I'm looking at all of these behaviors that BJ is doing and I don't like them. And I'm going to call her out for them. I'm going to criticize the things I don't agree with. I'm going to commentate over these streams that I don't agree with what she's doing. This is people's freedom of speech. We are allowed to be angry at things. We are allowed to have our own opinion on things. We are allowed to critique, criticize. We are allowed to do that. It doesn't matter if we're mad about the Rico case. It doesn't matter if we're mad that your man has said the F slur 3 times on your stream. It doesn't matter if we're mad that you live in North Carolina. It doesn't matter what we're angry about. We have the right to be angry about it. And as long as we're not doing anything illegal, there's nothing you can do about it. We are able to be mad and to react how we want to, right? Just like BJ says all the time, my channel, I say what I want. I'll talk about what I want. Same. And it doesn't mean that Granny's Watching is directing anyone to do anything. So quit acting like people being mad over the injunction is going to somehow negatively impact Granny's Watching. Has nothing to do with her, okay? If you had put someone else in that injunction, I still wouldn't agree with it, okay? That's how that goes. I'm so tired of hearing that. Seriously. Okay, sorry, tangent. Okay, so then he went on to talk about YouTube doesn't enforce their rules. They let people go wild on the app and harass people and get away with all kinds of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to partially agree with things here because I do think that YouTube lets people get away with too much. I think that using AI to look at reports, I think that when we report something and it's an AI system that reviews it, I think doesn't work. I think they need real people looking at things that are reported in real time. And I know that that's a lot of people and a lot of money. They're never going to do it. But I do agree that things fall between the cracks whenever you have an AI system doing this for you. So I will agree that YouTube does not enforce all of its rules. But he also said that because YouTube doesn't enforce the rules, that this is why offenders don't get caught. And this leaves it up to law enforcement and or a lawyer to help people out. This I don't agree with, okay? While I do think that there are policy violations that happen that YouTube doesn't pick up on, I do not believe that it rises to the level of needing to take it into the courtroom or to law enforcement. I just don't. And look, I think wholeheartedly that BJ has created the illusion of the danger she is under. I have not heard anyone threaten her. I have not heard threats to her family. Whatever she is claiming to be happening is being totally misinterpreted by her and dramatized, turned into something huge when it isn't. This is an entertainment platform. I say this. I think I say this every time I do one of these, and I'm so sorry. It's like y'all are probably going, God, she's saying the same thing over and over again. This is an entertainment platform. People come here for entertainment. We come here for cases. We come here to hang out, to laugh. We don't come here to harass people and get thrown into lawsuits and have to tiptoe around every word we say because somebody might take it wrong and try to throw us into a legal battle. Like, it's getting fucking ridiculous around here. And I think there's quite a few people that will agree with me. It's out of control. The way people think that they can control the speech of other people on here and the way that they are taking things and blowing them up into this massive, dangerous thing that isn't happening. It's not happening. Okay. And look, BJ has said that now her attorney has sent letters to the DA and to CPS to alert them that she's being harassed and people should be prosecuted and all of this stuff, okay? I don't know of a single CPS worker or law enforcement that would sit and watch some of the things that we have witnessed on BJ's live streams and say without a doubt that calls were made to them maliciously. How do they determine that someone's genuine concern is malicious whenever you look on screen to see a woman falling asleep mid-sentence numerous times on a live stream while her children are in the home and her significant other is so drunk he can't even microwave a steak for himself. And that same man is pulling weapons out, talking about weapons. People can be genuinely concerned about this. And I've said this over and over again. Depending on what's in their background, this could so definitely trigger them to have genuine concern. How do you separate that from malicious calls? I don't understand how you think that's going to happen. I don't understand what the purpose of notifying the DA about this is. I don't understand. I really don't. And I think all it's doing is feeding into this narrative of BJ's in danger and all these people are going to be going to jail over it. And I think that she does this to deter people from talking about her because I think that is her biggest purpose is to get the heat off of her and her behavior, which she just keeps doing worse things. So she's only hurting herself. I just think that people come on here for entertainment. There are not people on here threatening people's lives. Everything has been taken so far out of context and dramatized to such an extent that it's unreal. I do not think that anything on here should require law enforcement or attorneys to be involved. People come on here and they joke around and they have drama. They talk about each other. They poke at each other. They poke fun at each other. It should never go beyond that. I have never heard anyone threaten BJ's life. I've never heard anyone threaten BJ's kids' lives. I've never heard anyone attack her kids. Saying that her kids are ugly, although it's not nice to say, it is not an attack, it is not a threat. The children should never hear that. They should not be listening to these shows. They should not be in the background as BJ does the drama about these topics and overhears her saying this stuff. Because we have to remember that these children sitting in the room behind her are only hearing what their mom is saying. And if you've ever just paid attention to the words that BJ is saying, she is purposely repeating things to put fear in Craig and her kids. She will repeat things verbatim that would put them in fear. She will repeat, well, they're telling me I don't feed my kids. They're trying to get my kids taken from me. They said my kid's ugly. They made fun of my kid's tooth. Like she is saying these things in front of her children, purposely to make them fearful, purposely to make them victims of this online drama, when those children should never know anything that takes place either in the true crime cases about child murders and disappearances or in the drama situation where their mom is claiming these outrageous things that would scare a child. These things should not be said in front of these children. They should not know about it. They should be 10 and 11-year-olds that are playing with their friends, that are, and I don't care if they're online gaming with friends, whatever. They shouldn't be sitting in the room while she's live, overhearing the things that she's saying. Because, yeah, I'm sure that does terrify them. To think that people, adults online, are talking about them and mocking them, which is not happening, but it's what they're hearing. And the same situation that Craig is hearing, what she's repeating. And again, she only repeats the most inflammatory comments because that's what they can hear in the background. They don't get to hear the responses or what was actually said. All they hear is how she reframes it. And it's fucked up. I'm sorry, but it is. And that is what she wants to portray because she wants to be that victim and get the attention, sympathy, money. That's her goals. Attention, sympathy, money. So this person then went on to talk about that the states need to update the laws to clearly define what digital stalking and harassment is and to not give any wiggle room to offenders that think it's funny or amusing to go after families that never asked to be put in the middle. And again, I go back to this. I don't know of anybody that's going after families. And to engage in a back and forth drama online is very different than to go after, as in attack or do something to harm a family is very different than drama online, okay? Craig has put himself into this drama space by speaking about multiple people in a very derogatory way. So he inserted himself into it. People are allowed to respond to him. Again, there's been no threats there. Now, I do think that the legal system is behind in laws pertaining to social media and online behavior. And I do think that there's going to be a day when they catch up. And I think the problem is that you have all of these people suddenly using the court system to try to silence other people. So whenever we do have a period where the legal system catches up with social media and the internet, we're going to end up getting some type of suppression on free speech. because there are so many people turning to the legal system and weaponizing it to try to silence people and what they're saying. Whenever you start asking the government to restrict our speech, you're getting into shaky ground because everybody wants to yell free speech until they get their feelings hurt. And then they want to come on and say, oh, but I don't want you to be able to say that. We need free speech, but don't talk bad about me. Don't point that out about me. Don't criticize me. And I'm going to go to the court to make you stop. That's when this becomes a problem. Because once you get so many people doing that and you start having cases where people are actually getting restraining orders on people for drama online, we're going to start having problems. We're going to start having the government stepping onto our freedom of speech. And then you're going to have those very same people bitching about losing their freedom of speech. So I would be very careful about what you're asking for, because all of these people flooding the courts with all of this bullshit about how much they can say, and they talked bad about me, and I feel scared, and I feel intimidated. Y'all all are going to push them to overstepping their bounds onto our free speech, and then you're going to be complaining about that too. So I would just be very careful about it, because there is going to come a day where it is going to catch up. There has to be a point where the laws do catch up, because I do agree that there is a big lag between where we are in social media and where the legal system is with social media. And there are new laws that need to go into place, and there are definitions that need to be worded better. And I think the definitions need to be worded better to keep people like Lauren and BJ from using the court, and BHV from using the courts to stifle someone else's free speech when it is not necessary and it is not called for, when there is no threat. I would be really interested actually to watch BJ go over into the 1A community and have her sit for a day and listen to the live streams that go on over there and see how she responds to that, because they say some horrendous things over there, because they know that you're allowed to hurt feelings. You're allowed to have opinions on people, even if they're not nice. You're allowed to say words that may be offensive to other people, and they do it all. And amazingly, they're not calling law enforcement on each other every day. They're not suing someone every other day. Like, I think a lot of people over here would be shocked to go into the 1A community and hear some of the things that are said whenever they all get on a stream together and are fighting or just doing drama, because it's so way above anything that happens here that I sometimes hear what's happening here and I'm just like, I can't believe anybody is going to an attorney over this. Like, it is ridiculous. You do not understand how ridiculous it is. I think that everybody gets so worked up over here and everybody feeds into this overly dramatic presentation that BJ puts on. And I don't know if everybody just wants to be part of something. I don't know if everybody actually believes her. I don't know what's going on, but I guarantee that nobody is sitting down and actually dissecting the situation, asking for proof of these death threats, proof of what's making her so scared, because it's not there. There aren't any. It's just like the night that she supposedly got the email that someone is going to screw her windows and doors shut and set it on fire. What happened to that? Nothing. Nothing ever came of it. She didn't make a police report. It didn't happen. It made for a good show that night, right? And like, that's what BJ is worried about, is attention, views, money. And that's it. Nobody wants to actually sit down and say, hey, can you make me a video? Make me pull up some clips, prepare a stream for once, and come on here with clips ready to show me where you were threatened. I want to hear the words. I want to hear what made you think your life's in danger. I want to hear the words that made you think someone is coming there. Where's the proof? Instead of just believing her tearful cries and believing it right away, hear it. Where have any of you guys heard it? Because I haven't. And I listen to a lot of BJ streams to get clips and to just listen to what's going on. I haven't heard it. And I can't go over there and ask for it because I'll get blocked immediately upon saying something over there. So all of you that are over there throwing money at her and throwing all of your attention towards her and telling her how horrible it is, how she's being treated, and that she needs to go to the law, that she needs to get an attorney. Have any of you seen proof of threats to her life, of threats to her children? I hear Craig just repeatedly putting out this idea that they're going to be this big time professional true crime channel that everybody goes to, and they're going to be famous, and all of this bullshit that he's constantly putting out in the background. And in the meantime, he is one of the major problems about her streams. There's no way she's going to become a professional true crime channel with him in the background acting and saying the things that he does. Like, he's back there saying, these people are cockroach level. And maybe this is like a ring where you got to take out the low level hoes and then you can become the champion. And he says, You're right there. Win a few lawsuits, knock out the ground level hoes, and you're the grand champ. And then a few minutes later, he says, when they lose all these defamation lawsuits, she mutes him. And then when she unmutes him, he's saying, we'll shut them down legally, and then everybody will see what it is. So let me break that down a little bit. So we are being called cockroach level by a man who gets very intoxicated nightly and can't figure out how to microwave his own steak, can't fix his own plate of food, can't assist with helping the children in any way, can't even get to bed without BJ's assistance at times. So I'm not going to take anything that man says seriously. Him to be calling us cockroaches is laughable. Laughable. I'm telling you. And I don't normally like to judge people like that, but to hear him try to talk about this is like a boxing match where you got to start out with a low level hose. And then once you take them all out, you're the champion. So again, we have him going back to this whole lawsuit bullshit talk and all these defamation lawsuits that I guess they're doing with this 8K flat rate attorney that Craig said himself can't file petitions with the court. So it's ridiculous. And I'm really sick of hearing it from him. Like, it's unreal. And the way that he talks about women, I don't ever want to hear BJ talk about Cletus or Truth or B-Tim or any of those people, because not only does she have a mod who talks horribly about women, she has her own man in the back saying horrible things about women that he knows nothing about other than what BJ has told him. I'm really tired of it. And then he's a big X person. So he's like, you need to pair up with people like that nerdy addict because he had a badass drop on X. And you need to link up with people like that and get away from these nasty ass skanky hoes. And I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, because a lot of big time professional true crime channels have a man in the background saying "D's nuts" every 5 seconds and talking about his private area and everything turned into something perverted. I've never seen that happen. Can't picture it happen. It's just it's like a 3-ring circus over there at all times. Nothing is organized. You can't understand what's going on. If you were to click into it from not knowing, you would be like, what in the hell am I listening to? And in the meantime, you have BJ on there watching her chat. And I think like 2 trolls came in. And of course, someone in her chat says like, oh, somebody's sending the trolls over from so-and-so's channel. And so, of course, BJ's like, oh, they're being told to come over here now. Yeah, I see it. I see what's happening. Like, what? I'm trying to figure out in my head how she thinks things are happening. Like, does she think this entire group of 2,000 people are in some kind of group chat or meeting room that we all go into, and we go in and Granny gives us our marching orders for the day of where we go, who we talk to, what we talk about. And then during the day, if somebody starts a live stream, like one of the creators goes, okay, you and you and you go into her live stream and troll. Like, is this what she's picturing in her mind? I don't understand the reasoning behind what she thinks is happening. It makes no sense. But she cannot sit and logically think anything out. She just is going to run with whatever makes her the biggest victim. And people believe it. I don't know why. Like, they don't even think about it logically and try to reason out what she's saying and how it would work and if it could happen. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. And so then you have like BJ and Craig, I think this was on the 16th. They're talking about the court hearing that happened with Clear and Cletus. And it sounds like this is the first time that they're discussing this together. And at one point, Craig actually says, Brittany, we barely even talk anymore. And like, how freaking embarrassing is that? You're on a live stream in front of, well, I mean, her chat's not that big, but the people that will review her is, and your husband is basically telling everyone that y'all don't talk and he doesn't know what is going on in your life. And they proceeded to have this conversation about a court hearing that he knows nothing about. Like, it's so weird to me to be with someone enough that you reference them as your husband at times, and you haven't talked to him about what happened that day. It's so weird. I don't understand that. But of course, their go-to is always that they were somehow cheated or somebody didn't do something right, or, and so Kirk is saying the court officials around here are unqualified. We live in a little podunk town and the people here don't know what they're doing. They don't have the right certifications, all of that stuff, right? And then Craig goes to his conspiracy side and is like, courts are a money racket. If you don't have an attorney, they're going to treat you like a piece of shit. And then he says, so our attorney is busy. We need to find someone else. Because when you show up with an attorney, you will be taken seriously. But if you don't, they're going to laugh you out of the courtroom. And he actually, during this talk, said something that made sense for once, like amazingly. But he told her, he's like, look, the people that don't like you have already made up their minds. They don't like you. You're not going to change that by talking about this every night. The people that support you are going to support you. There may be one or two people that change their minds, but is that worth the drama every night? Is it worth going through all of this to maybe change one or two people's minds? And in this situation, he is actually correct. The people have made up their minds. There's nothing that she's going to say that is going to make the people over here go, oh, wait a minute. I was wrong all along. It's just not going to happen. And the more that she tries to defend herself, the worse she makes herself look. And I know I've spoken about this before on the whole court case, the no contact order, but it was brought up again the other day. And I want to just say what my opinion on things are, because, with VJ, you can never trust what she says. Like, you know that there's bits of truth in there, but you also know that there's a lot of lies in there that are going to paint her as the victim in any way possible. So it's hard to know what's true and not true with her. So it's interesting whenever her and Craig are having a conversation, because we hear truths coming out of Craig's mouth because he's usually intoxicated. And I firmly believe that a drunk man's words are the truthful words. They've lost the inhibition to try to filter themselves, and everything they're thinking just comes out. So it's interesting hearing their conversations because we get some truth from him coming out, and it doesn't always jive with what BJ's telling us. So this is just my opinion of how things happen. I think that she did go in on that Thursday afternoon to file the no contact order. And I do believe that it was probably later in the afternoon, and maybe the judge wasn't there at that time of the day, or they were in a case, something happened. But I also believe that whenever you go for a no contact order, it's an order that kind of flags you to go to a DV center or a DV advocate, because every court system has a DV advocate. And even though this wasn't a domestic case, the type of order it is flags that. So she says that she had a DV, if she said at the DV place is what she said, but so it would be a DV advocate. She said helped her to fill out the paperwork. And then she mentioned that the DV advocate walks her to the courtroom. So I do believe that happened. And I think he was wanting an ex parte. So she was ordered to come back on that Friday to go before the judge about getting the ex parte. I do believe that the judge said there's not enough information here. So now whether or not this judge said, come back Monday with your attorney, or whether BJ just said, I have an attorney, I can get this modified, however it was worded, I do think that it was planned for her to be back on that Monday to present something, whether it was with an attorney or a modified order, whether the judge just said, I need more information than this, and we'll see you again Monday, because you have to remember that they're taking these orders seriously. Like, you are in danger, like your life is in danger, because that's what you're saying when you go in for those orders. So, and again, this is all just my opinion, but I do believe that she is a covert narcissist. And so some of this is, she is not somebody that is going to display this out to everyone. She wants to protect her image, right? And she also does not like confrontation. She will avoid it. One of BJ's biggest things with people is if she has a falling out with someone, and if they offer like the slightest bit of supporting her in any way possible, what she'll do is go over there and just start talking like nothing happened. She just kind of slides back in without there being, a final talking out of what happened, a discussion, an argument, an apology. She will just kind of go in and test the waters and see if that person will just continue on and pretend like nothing happened, because that's what she wants. Just like the time when she went into Jay's and said something about, thank you for not going along with this, or saying this was wrong, or whatever. It's so weird because she just shows up and offers some type of little positive comment and hopes that the person that she's been fighting with will also go, okay, we'll just forget everything and everything's fine now. That's how she wants to deal with things. She doesn't want to deal with them face to face. That's why she won't let anybody up on her panel to try to work anything out. She doesn't like it. And part of that, I think, is because she's not good at it. She's not good at words. She's not good at comeback. She's not good at thinking quick. So I think that's another image thing. She knows that she can't have it out with somebody and come out looking good from it. She just can't. So she avoids confrontation, and she always thinks that she can take the path of least resistance and avoid it. And I think that's what she thought would happen in this court situation, that she could just not mention it again, or find an attorney, a couple of weeks later and do it again. But she thought that Clue and Cletus would never find out that she did this. She thought, okay, they aren't going to grant the ex parte. If I just don't go back and file anything else, it'll be dropped, right? But that's not what happened. So whenever Clue went live about it on that Monday, and DJ was live at the time, you could tell she was panicked when she jumped off that stream. I think she had a moment of, oh my God, what is happening? I don't think she knew that they were going to get served. I think she just thought that it was going to go away. And that's just my opinion on it because I've seen the way that she operates and the way that she handles things because she doesn't handle them. And I think she was completely unprepared for court that next Monday. I think she probably maybe mentioned it to her attorney, but I don't think that he does that kind of thing. And I think she never planned on it going that way. She thought she was going to go in, get the ex parte, bring it back to YouTube, give them a copy, come onto her platform and say, look what I did. I told y'all I'm a victim, but it didn't go that way at all. And so she just wanted it to disappear. But the courts don't work that way. You don't go in and say, I'm in fear for my life and just drop it like that. That shows something to the court. I think we pretty much all knew that BJ was going to jump onto this Lauren Matthias case and she understands and she knows what Lauren's going through. And then she's even like, she sees people in our community start to cover it too. And she says, I don't care who covers it. My problem is the hypocrisy. And like, I got fell out on the floor because BJ is the biggest hypocrite. And she says, then she has to do the whole, well, I covered it first. We're trendsetters because we were the first ones to cover it and they all jumped on afterwards. No, that's not what happened. But okay, BJ likes to think of herself as someone that everybody follows and copies when it is actually completely opposite. And I think she wanted Lauren's story to be similar to hers because she wanted some kind of validation from that, some kind of relevancy with a bigger creator or, something like that. I feel like she was really hoping for this to be Lauren did nothing wrong and everybody was jumping on her, attacking her, because that's the way that BJ portrays what is happening to her, even though it is not the truth. And then when she sees the people in our community covering it, she's like, this is what they do. They see something and they all jump on it and start ripping you apart. If you don't conform to what they believe, then they all gang up and rip you apart. They want you to conform. Listen, that is not what is happening. Our creators over here all see things differently. They don't all believe the same thing about cases. They take different stances. They have different beliefs, all of that. We are not like a cult over here trying to conform people into our beliefs. And actually, when I look at BJ and Craig and their religion, that is what I see. And I'm a Christian, so I'm not talking bad about Christians at all. What I'm talking about is their type of Christianity, which in my opinion is extreme. And if you don't believe the way that they believe, then you're demonic, you're evil, you're an atheist, you need God, you're going to hell, they're wishing bad things upon you, like all of the things. If you do not worship the way that they do, then you are bad. So it's real funny to me that she wants to throw that on other people whenever actually that is the way that they come across to people. They want people to conform to the way they're thinking, or you are a demon. And I personally get pretty offended by being referred to as demonic and evil. And, that's offensive. I am a Christian. I'm just not going to go for the things that y'all are saying. And also, I'm not going to go for whatever type of Christianity is wishing harm upon others and using God as vengeance on everyone and not using love and understanding and empathy. Like that's whatever they're doing is nothing I want a part of. And sorry, that was a whole tangent about religion. But when I heard her start saying that we want people to conform over here, it flew all over me. And so the other day, BJ was using Queen Bee's stream and reviewing it. And she ended up getting struck a copyright strike from Queen Bee because she wasn't using fair use, according to Queen Bee. Now, I haven't watched it, so I can't tell you yay or nay, but she did go down because of that. And it's funny because the part of that live that I did see, she was talking about, she was being really verbally aggressive and cussing, which was so Christian-like of her. I don't care if people act like that, but don't claim that you're this devout Christian and then act that way. But this is where the hypocrite BJ comes out because she's saying, I can want everything to stop and everybody to quit going at me and everybody to leave me alone, but I could still talk about things that are relevant in the community. And unfortunately, everybody attacking me is what's relevant in the community, so I'm going to discuss it. And I'm allowed to do that and still want things to stop. Now, how does that work? And everybody else can do the same. How do you decide what's relevant in the community? So, okay, I'm going to stop going at BJ. And then I'm going to listen to, say, Clue reviewing a stream of BJ's. And I'm going to say, well, that's what's relevant in the community. So I'm going to review that stream. And then, in essence, I'm still going at BJ, but all I'm doing is reviewing a stream, right? And that's typical BJ behavior, to keep that middleman, to keep that 1 degree of separation, because she's going to say, I'm not attacking Queen Bee. I'm reviewing something that's relevant in the community. Although the whole time she's reviewing it, she's throwing little digs at Queen Bee any chance that she can, right? So this is her new thing, is that she's going to still claim that she's being bullied and harassed and she wants everybody to stop, but she's still going to talk about everybody because that's what's relevant in the community. And that makes it okay. That makes it where she's not attacking anybody. She's just going along with what's relevant. It doesn't work that way. Like, no, it's not. And at one point she says, I'm doing a review of this stream and I'm allowed to. Okay, BJ, just like the whole community and all of YouTube is allowed to review your streams. That is how it works. That is part of YouTube. This is another thing with the rules for thee, not for me. You know, nobody can review her, but she's going to get pissed off if she's reviewing somebody and somebody comes in and says, why are you reviewing somebody that you sent a C&D to? And she's like, well, I can review whoever I want to. This is stream. I'm reviewing it. That's what I do. Well, the same goes for everybody else. So she can quit complaining about that bullshit. That's the type of shit that makes me so mad when I listen to her. It's like, how little self-awareness can you have? I think I have never seen a person that has absolutely zero self-awareness until I heard BJ. I literally think that she cannot look at her behavior and see what she's doing. She can't. I think it's impossible. And that goes on into BJ actually saying, and look at them going at Lauren's looks. Like, she's a beautiful woman. I can't believe they're going at her looks, talking about her getting Botox. I'm going to get Botox one day. I'm going to get lip filler. And I think she's beautiful. And there's no need to be going at looks. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? Like, I think it was last week, she had Jay's picture pulled up talking about that she could be related to Jen Soto because of the way she looks and tearing down her looks. We know she's torn down Clue every chance she gets. She's talked about Granny. She's talked about nonsense. She's talked about everybody's looks. So, and she knows she's done it. She knows. I honestly think that she believes that Lauren may stumble across her channel somehow and give her an interview or come to her aid or something. I don't know what she's expecting, but I honestly think that she believes that somehow Lauren will see that and connect with her somehow. Because why else would she do that? She knows she's gone at looks. And Lord knows, Craig has talked about every woman in the community, even people he hasn't seen. He calls everybody very disparaging things all the time. So I just couldn't believe that she even went there. Can't believe they're talking about looks. Okay, BJ. And speaking of looks, like, I have no segues. Like, I just like jump in here and there, and sorry about that. So BJ made a comment. She says, well, I hope people don't judge me because I laugh every now and then, because I use humor as my therapy. So I do come on here and laugh. And even when I'm stressed out and things are bad, I come on here and laugh. And you can't judge people by the way they look. You can't look at somebody and tell if they're really happy or if they're stressed out or sad. You just can't do that. People, look at, I don't know if she said this, but she was saying kind of the same things as the Robin Williams words that were put out. It's amazing how much a smile can hide, right? And I immediately go to remembering her talk about Katie Proudfoot and how she appeared in the pictures that were taken of her privately, without Katie knowing. Or even how Katie looked in interviews. BJ sat and ripped that woman apart and assumed her guilty and talked about the way that she looked or the way that she smiled or the way that the tone in her voice was, everything. So again, another hypocritical moment from her because she wants to be able to claim that she's under emotional duress and it's so bad it's affected her quality of life. But it's okay. She can come on here and laugh and stream every day. And that doesn't mean that she's not, under emotional duress. But you can't apply that to anybody else. If Katie comes on and smiles and laughs a little when she was remembering something about Sebastian, that means that she's not upset, she's not hurting, she must have done it. I mean, that's the kind of logic that BJ was using when watching interviews. So unreal that she wants to go there and try to cover for herself. And it's simply because we all know that she hasn't acted like she is in fear for her life. So she's now trying to make up that she can appear happy, but really she's not. I know that BJ thinks that she understands fair use, but she obviously doesn't. She really should watch some videos or read something, do something to understand what it is. I'm honestly surprised that she hasn't gotten more strikes before this because I have never seen that girl use fair use in a video, ever. And so, like fair use, there's 4 factors that a court will look at when considering fair use. The purpose, the nature of the copyrighted work that you are transforming, the amount of the portion used, and the effect on the market for or the value of the copyrighted work. Transformative use is crucial, and you must add something new, like commentary or critique or a new purpose for it. So playing music in the background and crediting the person who made the stream is not fair use. Putting up a banner saying this is fair use does not make it fair use. Pausing a video to talk to someone in chat or to say wow is not fair use. You have to add something to it or make it something different. So whenever you're pausing to discuss what has been said, you are adding to it. You are giving more meaning to what is there. You are adding opinion and criticism to it for people to look at what has been said in a different way. It's transformative. Nothing BJ does is transformative for what she shows. And when I talk about her getting strikes for fair use, I'm talking about from actual, like the larger media companies like Law and Crime or News Nation or any of the, major news companies, Fox, ABC, whatever, those type of things. Because if they catch wind of you repeatedly using their content and not using fair use, those are the people that you have to worry about finding out and striking you. So that's what I would be worried about if I was her, because she's never used any of them and actually done fair use with it. I don't even know if I want to bring this up, but the topic of the money. If you haven't watched my latest video, I encourage you to. If you have any question about the fundraiser or any of the many things that they have bought since they started the fundraiser, it's just basically a video showing receipts. And I also have a short that is called, I think, Pay No Attention to the Man Behind the Curtain, where it is Craig repeatedly talking about how much money he has and thanking people for donating so that he doesn't have to help. So those are just two interesting videos talking about the whole fundraising issue. And I think that she is still getting questioned about where the money is and what's happened with it. And, I think people were questioning, why wasn't he at the RO hearing with her? And because so far we know that all he has done, supposedly, are the 3 C&Ds and then the cost of mailing those out or FedExing those out, right? And that's it, because the ROs were free, so that cost nothing. So then she throws in the other day that he has written letters to the DA and CPS in her county. And I'm like, why? Why? And she said something about it's letting them know that she is a victim of harassment online and that if people are calling in reports that they need to be prosecuted because it's all malicious because she's a victim of online bullying or whatever. Okay, look, in my opinion, I don't believe that because it's not going to do any good. Like, people, you cannot dictate what concerns people. And I am sorry, but if a judge watched some of the streams that BJ has done, and that include Craig, there's no way they would say that the call was malicious, that you could rule out genuine concern, because there has been things that would cause people to be concerned. So that makes no sense to me. I don't believe that. And a DA isn't just going to pick up a case. None of it makes sense. Like, I think she's now just throwing stuff out there to make it seem like her attorney is doing more than he is, because she needs to make up some reason why she needed all that money and where it's gone to, because she hasn't shown what is happening. She's not transparent. As much as she claims she is, nothing about her is transparent. Another thing, please, please do not take medical advice from Craig and Reality. Please, I heard Reality talking about oregano oil and how to mix it, how to make it, how much to take. Do not, and there was someone in the chat that mentioned that they have COPD and was asking how much they should take. Please do not do that. If you have COPD, oregano oil can irritate your airways. If it is inhaled by someone with COPD, it can cause irritation of your respiratory tract, leading to severe cough, shortness of air, throat irritation. And inhaling any essential oil with COPD can cause airway irritation. Oregano oil can increase your risk for bleeding. So if you're on blood thinner, you don't need to take it. Like, this is the problem with listening to these homemade remedies online. If you have pre-existing medical conditions, please do not listen to these people and mix up and take things at home. You do not know how you're going to react to it, and it could end up really, really badly. So I urge anyone listening to please consult your doctor. If you hear something from them that sounds interesting, consult your doctor. A lot of them have electronic charting where you can send a message to them even. But please don't just do it, because it could turn out so bad. So before she got her strike and she was live, she was talking about, she was really pushing memberships, and Craig's in the background talking as usual. And you hear him talk about that they're still working on the upgrade. And BJ says they're trying to finish their office up. And she's like, see, my money isn't going towards just anything. It's going back into my business. And like, what do people get out of it? Because a lot of things that she promises are going to happen for the channel never do. And there are no member perks. Like, they don't get members only lives. They don't get anything extra for being a member at all. So like, she's pushing that. And then you also hear Craig talking about they've ordered solar panels and they're going to be delivered soon. Solar panels are expensive. And if I'm correct, I think you get a tax write-off for them. There are some places that the power company actually pays you to have solar panels. So if people cannot see what is wrong with all of this purchasing starting the same time as she has a fundraiser start, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you are still donating to this girl, I don't feel sorry for you at this point. Like, You can plainly see what is happening. So if you want to fund that life of them thinking that they can just turn the computer on and make money and they don't have to go work for the man and everybody should just support them as they sit there and spend away and everybody else does the work. Somebody um, mentioned something about the only reason BJ does this for money. And so BJ goes on the rant about, if you think creators that you watch aren't here for money, then you're stupid. How could you think that? And Craig in the background says, would you want to go work for no money? And I'm like, y'all are not doing work. BJ is not working. I am sorry. There are some people who get an income from YouTube and actually put effort into what they're doing. BJ is not one of those people. Literally, as Craig said, they come and flip on the live button and talk, sleep, eat, and that's a job? I mean, no, that's not a job. If she had been at a regular job anywhere, she would have already been fired for sitting and eating in the middle of the day and falling asleep and not doing the research needed to be done, not knowing what she's talking about, not being able to control her emotions, all of this stuff. Like, she could not hold a job down in society. I'm tired of hearing that this was her job because it's not a job to her. This is an entitlement to her. She thinks that she is owed this just for flipping on the live button and talking. She thinks that she is owed people's hard-earned money. And if you want to give it to her, go right ahead. I'm going to donate to the creators that are actually entertaining me, that are putting money into what they're doing, that have an actual plan when they come on, that are giving me some type of product in return for my money. Not to just see someone flip on a switch and chew with their mouth open, talk with their mouth full, right up in the microphone, fall asleep and wheeze for 10 minutes and then tell you they weren't asleep and yell at you if you say they were asleep, and to hear her man in the background cussing you and calling you names. Like, no thanks. I don't want to pay for that. I earn my money and it's not going towards that. You want to do it? Great, go right ahead. But that is not a job. BJ could not hold a job in real life. She couldn't. And one way I can tell that BJ is stunted emotionally and in maturity to high school age, the freaking word she uses. This new girl, let me tell you, girl. And the whole bruh thing and yo, she adds yo to the end of some of the things. I'm like, you are 37 years old. Quit talking like you're 15 and acting like you're 13. It's really unappealing. Like, I know that you think that you're still in that era, but you are not. You have 5 children. You should be acting like an adult at this point in your life. Sorry, but it's true. She was anybody that is from the Natasha Cooper era, which, by the way, now that she's on TikTok, I so hope that Natasha finds her and they interact somehow. That would be great. I would love for that to happen. But anyway, so BJ was trying to make like names. I don't understand TikTok. Okay, I'm old. So there's something that's a fan club. And she was trying to make names for certain tiers, I guess. And so she was trying to think of names. And then I hear out of her mouth, Shug. And then she goes, oh, somebody's already taken that name. Are you kidding me? Like, we're to the point now that she's just using Natasha's terminology. Not only is she using her money-raising terms and skills that she learned from her, now she's even going to start talking like her. Oh my God, help me. I about keeled over when I heard her say that. And the fakeness on TikTok is over the top because she knows that she's getting people in that haven't seen her before. She got so excited because I guess she came up on somebody's suggested list. And she's super excited. She's putting on the fakest act of being this, it's again back to this Southern Christian mama thing where she's overly sweet and every other sentence is, I love you. Y'all don't know how much this means to me. And I just love you all so much. And I have such a supportive community. And then she has people coming into her chat that are telling her, you can't say that here. Don't say this here. You can't do that here. And she's like, oh, really? What else can I? And I'm like, can you not read? Can you not pull up? Like, if I was going to switch to a different platform, I would prepare for it. I would pull up the terms of service, see what's allowed there. Can I play music? Can I talk about this? Can I link things? Like, I would want to know all of that before I go live somewhere. Not her. She just wants to jump into it because she can't miss, a dime of money. So we can't waste any time. Jumps right into it head first. And she has no clue what she's doing. She doesn't know how anything works. She doesn't know what she can and can't say. Nothing. She just wants people to tell her. Just like with her true crime. Doesn't research anything. Just everybody else tell me what's happening. So she starts off her TikTok live by saying one of her kids is going to be in the room with her because he's not going to be alone, which, okay, not sure why she announced it at first, but I guess I kind of understand him not wanting to be alone because they were sharing a room up until the CPS visit. But then at one point, the other child comes into the room and she tells him he has to go get back in bed. But she goes on to do this live stream for I think 3 hours. And the things that she is saying, I do not feel it is appropriate for that young of a child to be in the room while she is talking about this stuff. Because she was talking about people, and this is what she was saying, like, people are saying that Craig is a threat and talking about him being a threat to people. And then someone was asking her about Halloween and if she took her kids trick-or-treating in the neighborhood. And she's like, no, I don't trust the world. So we don't do neighborhoods. She said, we go to a few places that I'm familiar with and that's it. So someone asked if she likes trick-or-treating. And she says, no, because they don't do those on Halloween. So I don't like those. And this is something that gets me about BJ is she's one of those people that is going to focus on whatever the negative is in a situation. So it can be this really positive thing, and she's going to find whatever little negative part of it that she can find and point out. So she could like win the lottery and win $10 million, and she should be happy and on top of the world, but she would be upset because she had to pay taxes to the government. And she would harp on that instead of being happy for the $10 million. And I really dislike those kinds of people because they're just miserable. Look at the positive sometimes. Be happy about things. Quit nitpicking out the negative parts of things and making them the biggest topic because it shouldn't be. Like, okay, you can't do trunk or treat because it's not on Halloween. But also she's sitting here telling us that she doesn't trust the world. I just can't imagine what these kids hear from them daily. And of course, you've got Craig, who is very, very drunk, and you can hear him in the background babbling to the kid. And we've all heard his drunk talk, so there's no telling what was being said. And we didn't need to know it. We didn't need to know that kid's back there. Why? I don't even know why she did that. Other than probably this right here. So somebody talks about it and she can go there attacking my kids. And I don't care. Y'all are hearing me. I'm not talking negatively about her children. So anyway, the fakeness, like I said, is over the top. One of her best mods, Center, came over to her stream there because she sent him the link to her TikTok. So he showed up. And then she tried to play it up with him. And she's like, for those who don't know, Center and I are victims of being unfairly and falsely struck by the bee. And she's talking about, I'll be over here streaming for a week because this vile cretin of a woman struck me. Like, BJ had no part in what happened to her. It's all wrong and she did nothing wrong. She's a victim of it all the time. And she talks about, I have a community and they depend on me. They followed me over here because somebody made a comment about how many people she had in her chat for being new on TikTok. And she's like, well, yeah, I have an amazing community on YouTube and they depend on me going live every night. So they follow me over here because they are used to my nightly streams. And I'm thinking, so does Granny. Granny has a great community that was used to her going live every morning. Like they planned on that. People who had a morning commute knew that she would be coming on for that. People who got up and grabbed their cup of coffee and sat down waiting for her to come on and talk. Like there were people that was part of their morning routine. But unlike BJ, Granny was actually affected by all of this bullshit and it affected her ability to stream. And then, I'm not that familiar with TikTok, but I was watching and some of the gifts that they get show up on screen as different things like crowns or cowboy hats or whatever. And I'm like, well, this is perfect for her because she loves to look at herself in the camera and, now she has a reason to. But she was just overly seriously, this whole stream, I bet 80% of it was her talking about and thanking people for the gifts they give, which if I understand right, the little things that are given on TikTok are not I think some of them are like a penny that they pay for. I don't know how that pays out to the creator, but I don't think it's anything like as much as a super chat on YouTube. But regardless, she has to thank everyone for everything that comes through and announce every 5 minutes how many she's gotten. So at one point she starts doing the fake cry, the trembling voice where she's getting ready to cry. And she says, I know I keep saying it, but it means so much to me. This 6 days affects my income tremendously. I was working hard to try to build over this next 6 days. This was my Thanksgiving check. And she knew that. She knew what she was doing. Give me a break. I don't believe that BJ had anything planned for the next 6 days. She doesn't plan that far ahead. What did she have planned that was going to rebuild her channel in the next 6 days? Come on. And then this was her Thanksgiving check, like she was going to cook a meal for anyone outside her family and as much meat as they buy and cook all the time. And she's got a freezer at the rental house that's like their third freezer that's overflowing with food. What does she need a Thanksgiving check for? That gets me. This whole money manipulation, using emotional manipulation, religious manipulation, it's gross. It's so gross. And to sit and watch it knowing what the money is going to, knowing how often we hear of all of the meat that they cook. Meat is not cheap. We're always hearing about steaks and different kinds of fish and pork chops, just all the stuff that she's constantly talking about cooking for Craig because he's only eating meat or whatever. That's expensive. I do not believe that a Thanksgiving check was going to be needed to spend any more money on food than she already does. But it helps with the manipulation. Just like she's going to say that the December 21st check is her Christmas check, because the year that she lost her monetization, that was the big freak out, was that was my check before Christmas for my shopping. Like, why do you wait until December 21st to do your Christmas shopping? You have 5 kids. Why are you not shopping before then? It's all manipulation for money. And it infuriates me because people that are just joining or people that have fallen for her poor me act will buy right into this and donate more money. And I honestly, I used to hate it for people. Now I'm just like, look, it is blatantly in your face what she's doing. And if you choose to give her money, that's on you. I hate it for you. You're throwing your money away, but do it, lady. And I'm going to be honest, there was a part of her TikTok live last night that really, really angered me. And it was the part where someone had come into her chat and mentioned the injunction. And so BJ goes onto a rant about why she entered the injunction and actually says on there, nobody's ever asked me why I joined. Yeah, it's been talked about for the past year, but okay. She then goes on to list a whole bunch of things that are not true. And I have to wonder what in the world she's doing besides trying to create a whole new reality over there on TikTok, because what she said was not true. And it's not what she said is probably gonna be useful for some other people in the future. I'll just put it that way. Um, and then some of the comments about Lauren that came up last night, there was just one thing that stood out to me on that too, was she says, talking about herself, she was saying she may be thinking differently about the situation with Lauren, but she's never going to change her mind on the opinion of dogpiling is wrong and it shouldn't happen. And she goes on to say, I've been the victim of dogpiling and 10 against 1. I don't like that. I don't agree with that. And those numbers I was like, wow, that's interesting, because you entered into a lawsuit where you were part of the 10 against 2. So that was okay, right? No problem with that. Being in a court trying to destroy someone's life when you have 10 plaintiffs against 2 defendants, that's okay. But coming on YouTube and critiquing and commentating over BJ's streams, and there's 10 people reviewing it against just her, that's not okay. That's bad. Give me a break. It angered me. I'm not going to lie. It made me really, really angry to hear that. Because how dare she claim that 10 people reviewing her on YouTube is horrible because they're just one of her. But a year ago, she entered into a legal filing with 9 other plaintiffs, going after 2 defendants, 2 single moms who were doing what they do on YouTube, reviewing. Just like DJ said earlier, I can review streams. I have every right to do that. I'm on YouTube. Granny had every right to do that too. But for some reason, that ended her with 10 plaintiffs suing her. But don't bat an eye, Pat. That's okay. But everybody better be up in arms about 10 creators reviewing BJ's streams, which I don't even think it's 10 creators. I don't know where she got that number, but whatever. When I heard that, it just hit me. I could feel my cheeks getting red. I was like, how dare you? How dare you? You tried to destroy lives, and that's okay. But people talking about the content you put out on YouTube is the most horrible thing ever? No. You're not going to go over to a different platform and create a different world. It's not going to happen. I completely understand that people are extremely tired of hearing about BJ, and it's been over a year of hearing about her doing the same behaviors over and over again, and people are tired of it. And I get it. I do. I think people are already tired of hearing about Lauren. So I'm not going to keep doing these about her. And a lot of this was more geared towards the psychology behind it and the games that she's playing on here, because I don't think they're that uncommon. As we see with this Lauren situation, this happens in other communities, and it's never quite what it first appears to be. If someone came over into our community and heard BJ talking, not knowing any of the background, you might fully believe that she is being attacked until you actually sit and look into it. It's kind of like the way that Lauren was presented. People at first were like, oh yeah, she's got a good show. I like her. She wouldn't come out and make a big deal if it wasn't a big deal, right? But then once you pull the curtain back and start looking, it's different. So it's just kind of a baseline of the behaviors and things that circle around it. In the future, I'm going to try to move away from BJ, but there was just some final things that I wanted to say about what she's doing right now. And, you can see more that she is actually needing the drama to keep her channel going, because as people are not talking about her as much, she is starting to actually pull up the people's streams that she claims are bullying her to review, because she needs people going at her. She needs the drama to get the numbers. So whenever people completely switch away from her, we're going to see the true BJ come out. And you're going to see who instigates and who pokes and who keeps it going. So, and that's all that really needs to be said about her. And I just wanted to point some of this out because we're going to see it replay with different people in the future. This is always going to be something that happens on YouTube until there is a change in policy, or a change in how they review things, or a change in laws, or in the way that people can use the legal system. One more thing that I want to talk about is just a basic overview of something that I researched. Y'all know me, I'm researching shit. So I was kind of just looking into how the First Amendment plays into things like cancel culture, or something that I didn't know existed, which is call out culture. And this is a social practice. It's not a legal practice. This is just a social practice. And some argue that the act of public condemnation and its consequences are a form of speech protected by the First Amendment. And it's a cultural phenomenon in which people criticize an individual who is thought to have acted or spoken in an unacceptable manner, and called for that target to be boycotted, shunned, and publicly recognized. So some critics argue that call-out culture has a chilling effect on public discourse, that it's unproductive, that it doesn't bring real social change, that it causes intolerance, or that it amounts to cyberbullying. There are critics that look at it in that light. But there are others that say bringing awareness to a problematic public figure is generally protected by the First Amendment. And people on YouTube are considered limited public figures, as is BJ. And the level of protection that you get from the First Amendment depends on whether the figure is a public or private person, and whether the statements being made are factual or opinion. You know, the First Amendment strongly protects commentary and criticism of public figures. It also covers exposing hypocrisy or poor conduct. As long as you're providing truthful information about a public figure's actions, character, or perceived hypocrisy, it's protected and is central to holding public individuals accountable for what they say and do. Instead of trying to take them to court for everything, if you have public accountability with call-out culture, which may mean multiple people focusing on one public figure and what they have done that is inappropriate or doesn't align with the social norms of the community, is okay as long as you are being truthful. Of course, the First Amendment doesn't cover defamation, so it does not protect the right to knowingly spread false statements as a fact, and that harms someone's reputation. And you know, with call-out culture, it's very difficult to determine the limits. It can be hostile to free speech, but it also is free speech. It is, in essence, free speech responding to free speech. So BJ has the right to free speech. She can go on her platform and express her opinions about whatever she wants. She can go on there and talk about what she wants, present things the way she wants, and then people have their right to come behind her and criticize what her opinions were, criticize what she put out. We have the right to that free speech, just as she had the right to put it out. I hope I said that to make sense, because, you know, it's a really thin line when you start talking about the First Amendment and what's covered and what isn't, because everybody wants to fall back to First Amendment, right? But there are limits on what the First Amendment covers. You can't just go out and blatantly tell lies on people and then say free speech, but you can give opinions. You can give criticism. You can go back over what somebody said and point out things that you don't agree with. As long as you are not telling blatant lies about them that is going to harm their reputation, it's okay. And it's going to be different if you are just a private person than if you are some sort of public figure. And that covers even social media creators and influencers. You are a limited liability public figure, so you're going to have that applied to you. It is allowed to have greater criticism towards you because you are putting yourself out there knowing that you can get that criticism. Before I go any farther, I just want to remind everyone that I am nobody. I am just someone who did some research, some Googling, some reading articles, and tried to learn some stuff. I'm not a legal expert. I am just someone who wanted to learn something, so I did a little research, and here I am. So not an expert on anything. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. So call-out culture assumes that there is some shared set of moral standards or norms, and the goal of call-out culture is to call out others that aren't living up to those standards. So, like in our community, whenever we see BJ doing cases and she is placing blame on one side over the other, whenever we don't have any evidence of that, whenever she is not doing research and coming onto her streams not knowing anything about the cases or putting out incorrect information, whenever she is playing media news coverage and falling asleep during them. All of this kind of violates what we as a community have in our mind as ethical or social standards for covering true crime cases. So whenever she is being called out, it is because we see her behavior as outside of what is acceptable, what is normal for what should happen with true crime cases. And we are addressing that. So there's a group calling out that behavior in hopes that that person will realize what they're doing and alter that behavior to fit back in to the moral standards of the community. But it is a very thin line to walk. It really is. Because like I said, it can be seen as chilling your freedom of speech, but it also is freedom of speech. So if people become too scared to say what they're feeling, then it kind of hinders public discourse because we want to be able to go into spaces and have open public discourse, be able to say what we think, what we believe, have those conversations with people. So if you get to a point where you are calling people out or shaming someone so much that they are then afraid to speak at all, you're kind of stepping onto impeding on their First Amendment rights. But it is also our right in regards to our freedom of speech to speak out against what we don't agree with. So it's a balancing act. It really is. And some of the goals of call out culture, it's to inform the public about that person's actions and then express the disapproval and the reasons why you're calling out that individual's actions. And it's an attempt to hold these public figures accountable in an effort to bring about change in their actions. That is the ultimate goal for all of that. And there's something called social presence theory that shows that, media restricts social cues and opens interactions to large numbers of people. It also reduces the channels and the social structure that supports good communication, especially when engaging in disagreement and argument. I always believe that social media has done a lot of harm in the way that we communicate and in the way that our children have learned to communicate with each other and resolve conflict because it does put up this wall of separation. You aren't used to standing face to face and dealing with problems with someone. Instead, you find out that you can do it anonymously online and never really face the consequences for it. And you never have to face the uncomfortableness of being in front of the person that you're disagreeing with. You also miss out on reading social cues. A lot of things get misconstrued in message form because you can't hear the inflection of the voice to tell how they're saying it. So a lot of things get mistaken as being hostile when maybe they really weren't. So it causes a big divide in effective communication. And I will always feel that way. Social media has been definitely a blessing and a curse, especially to our children. Okay, well, this has been Just Saying's very long, rambly, chaotic list of ideas and thoughts that popped into my head. I apologize. I know this has been all over the place, and I really had no good segues from one topic to the next. It was kind of choppy, and I am so sorry. There was just so much that I wanted to talk about and cover, and I would mean to give it finished on one day, and then I wouldn't get it done. So by the time I got ready to finish it the next day, there would be a whole nother live that I needed to add some stuff to. So it kind of got out of hand, and I'm sorry. Like I said, in the future, I'm going to try to move away from making these about BJ, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I could do like topic specific ones, things about like hospice nursing and my experience with that, healthcare reform, opiate discussion. I could do case discussion where I spend this time talking about a specific case for an hour. And it would have to be either cold cases or cases that are already solved. I will not do any current trending cases. Nope, want no part of that. So if you have ideas of what you would like to hear on these, because I know a lot of people do enjoy these, and I want to keep giving people what they want. I don't know why in the world anybody wants to listen to me ramble on, but I guess people do. So if you have ideas of what you want me to cover in the future, please tell me. If there are other problematic YouTubers that y'all find that you want to hear more about, let me know. I'll do the research on it. I am willing to do research on any topic that you leave below. I love to learn new things, and I am interested in a wide array of things. So, whatever, I'm willing to look into pretty much anything. So, I think that's it. Again, I apologize if this was hard to follow. It was hard for my brain to follow, honestly. So, we are moving into the holiday season. I know that for some, this is a very hard time of year. There are a lot of people that have seasonal affect disorder, and I've noticed we're moving into the more rainy, dreary months, and it's really hard for some people. And I understand that. Also, with the holidays, a lot of people who have lost people either this year or previous years kind of struggle during this time. So, my heart goes out to everyone who has difficulty with this time of year. It is not the easiest for me, and I appreciate my social media time to try to get my mind off of that sort of thing. So, okay, I think that's it, guys. And again, please in the comments, if you have ideas, suggestions, anything at all, leave them for me. Criticism, I am open. Okay. I hope everybody that celebrates Halloween has a great Halloween, a safe Halloween, not a rainy Halloween. And I will talk to you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys. Oh, one more thing. I appreciate so greatly all of the support that I've been getting. It is overwhelming. And I so appreciate everybody's input and the kind words. And it means more to me than you know. And I say that genuinely, not in a BJ way. So thank you for that. I will talk to y'all soon.